What's up, Buffalo Bills fans? Here for the awaited, I'm sure, 2014 draft review. It was one hell of a wait. It's unlike anything I've ever experienced in all my years of watching the draft in terms of wait and over analyzing and just it just made it unbearable almost. It to the point where it was just like you really didn't enjoy it. But anyway, once that clock gets rolling and names start flying, it really becomes fun. It is what you want it to be. It's an event, it's a spectacle, and it really the NFL does have it right in terms of hyping that event, unlike the other sports leagues, in such a way that it's bigger than some of the games because fans are so tuned in because it's just such a selling point to bring in young talent that you've watched in college, and you're potentially going to get them on your team. But on to the Bills 2014 draft class and the offseason as a whole. I really liked the aggressiveness in which the Bills attacked this offseason. It was unlike a lot of past off seasons, past Bills regimes where they just didn't sit around on their hands and wait for things to happen. They went out and made things happen and were very, very much to their word in terms of surrounding EJ Manuel with playmakers, surrounding EJ Manuel with help, whether it be a running back, receiver, offensive line. They really, really stayed true to that. I mean, ever since the end of the year press conference on December 31st, it was the hue and cry. And something that they really did, both on offense and defense, they added a real toughness to this team with a guy that I really didn't care for much because, granted, he's on the Patriots and he's beating the Bills, he's talking trash, but still an edgy guy. I'm Florida Gator at heart, so I known him from Florida, and of course rooted for him there. He's the kind of guy you love to have on your team, but hate to play against when he's on the other team. I mean, you hate him, and that's exactly what happened with Brandon Spikes, Corey Graham, a tough guy, versatile guy, provides a lot of depth, the ability to step in and start if you need to. Excuse me. Um, Preston Brown, just overall the type of player that they added on the offensive line with Quanjo, Henderson, Richardson, Williams, Anthony Dixon, Bryce Brown. The trades that they made were just crazy. Going up to get Sammy Watkins in that move, and everybody who knows that's watched me, I've been was a big pusher of Mike Evans because of the height and the red zone and things like that. I understand the Watkins pick in the terms of moving him around, all the different things you can do with him, the explosiveness of him, as opposed to Evans, where he was just predominantly lining up on the right side as an X receiver and going up in jump ball situations and stuff. But there's obviously a lot more to playing wide receiver than just those situations. It's just the dynamics of Watkins appealed to the Bills more, was the consensus number one wide receiver by most, all the way up into the draft. Of course, you have your, you know, people that say, well, this guy's, but you're always going to have that. It's just like with, I prefer Mac over Clowney debate that started happening. But Sammy Watkins is a Bill now. They quickly moved Stevie Johnson after that pick was made. Not even 15 hours. It was quite of an interesting thing with the Watkins pick because you have now the Houston Texans, Andre Johnson situation, obviously Cleveland with the whole Josh Gordon situation and Burleson breaking his arm. So I don't know. I think the Bills, even though they gave up a first next year, and you had so many people still getting it wrong, saying they gave up two firsts. No, they gave up one, and they just kept saying it was two for some reason. They swapped ones, gave up one, and a fourth. And they feel like they really needed to attack and get a guy of this caliber, and they did it. But I think throughout each pick and each guy that they brought in, they really identified a kind of guy that they want, a guy that plays with a toughness, that plays with an edge, a guy that's not going to kowtow to opponents, a guy that just doesn't talk about winning but is a winner. And you even saw it with Quanjo in his interview. He's like, I'm a winner. I've only lost 7 games in my whole career as a football player, whether it be high school and at Alabama, where they rarely ever lose, if ever. So I mean that's the kind of guys you want, guys that just expect to win. And too many times in the past, as Bills fans, we've had coaches and nameless, countless players just talk about expecting to win, but when it came time to put it up, they wilted. Hopefully these moves work out. They, like I said, they stay true to their word, surrounding EJ Manuel with playmakers, and just a couple of things like you see, like at the wide receiver position, I think you see TJ Graham as a guy kind of just in the wilderness now because you have Mike Williams, and I think he's really going to take on that role that Graham had. Graham was just kind of, he's not their guy. Not a lot of production, one-dimensional receiver. Maybe he's on his last legs with a team that certainly looks like it. Williams is a guy. He's a lot more seasoned. He's been a lot more productive. He has had his off-the-field issues, and that's why I think the Stevie deletion is more about of a personality conflict than the off-the-field stuff. Otherwise, why bring in Mike Williams if it's all about off-season stuff? But and the history with Marone too. You throw that in there, and then Watkins, and then that's where Stevie gets out. Is Watkins is going to be the guy that's going to be everywhere. He's going to be in the slot, on the outside, in the backfield. It's like if you watch the Clemson Ohio State game, it was just he was everywhere. He was just everywhere. You couldn't, throw a dart at the guy and hit him before the snap because he was just lining up everywhere. And the comparisons between the two players is so many times we see Stevie get open so much, but when he would get the ball, he just couldn't pull away. He just didn't have that gear where he could just, that play speed where he just was boom, he was out. And Watkins, you see that ability in him, and that's exciting. A guy that can turn that 5-10 yarder quick hitter into that dynamic play. So that's something to look forward to. And the Bryce Brown, it was a very interesting sign. And just and you saw the Bills Chronicle that they wanted Hyde. I was devastated when I saw that they wanted Hyde because he's a guy that I liked. But like they said, you can't get them all. You can't win all. You can't win them all. But you saw a concerted effort to get the kind of players that they talked about, a big back. And funny thing about Bryce Brown and Carlos Hyde, Bryce Brown's been 2 years in the NFL. He's only 4 months older than Carlos Hyde. I found that rather interesting. But he's a bigger back. He's a guy who's played in the league. He's shown the ability to take the ball all the way home. Catches the ball well out of the backfield. I think he's a guy that's going to get playing time. I really do. I think he's really going to get playing time. And I liked the message that I like is with a Bryce Brown, even an Anthony Dixon. People are looking over that. I think Anthony Dixon's going to get some playing time, whether it be in ugly short yardage situations or goal line situations. I think this guy is really going to get playing time. There's no ceremonial spots on this roster anymore. Truly, there's nobody that's getting a free run in. And so many years in the past, whether I can go down the names, and we all know who some of those guys are. It just seemed like they were just shoo-ins. They were beyond reproach when it came to them being on this football team. And I part of me hated that. If you're going to talk about competition, that's one thing, but doing it's another, and it just wasn't done. And it's why you see the 6-10, 6-10, 6-10, 4-12, 7-9 crap that we've seen. And it just has to stop at some point. And you have at least guys there, and people want to say you should always be worried about your job in the NFL. I don't care if there's an ownership change or not. You should always be worried about somebody taking your job or losing your job or not winning. Winning should always be the goal. Win now should always be the mantra. We hear about, 14 is a must win now, then what? So it wasn't that way last year, the year before? Come on. I think that stuff is just barf talk, if you ask me. But I really like that aspect. And the next aspect I really really liked, and it's something I've been harping on, if you watched these videos long enough, is the physicality that they've added. the size, Quanjo, Henderson, Richardson, Williams, even along the defense at linebacker, Johnson, a kid from athletic kid, but still a big kid. If you watch some of his stuff from Florida Atlantic, Preston Brown, big linebacker, but athletic, can move around, just not as stiff. Spikes, like I've talked about before. Rivers is a guy, he'll play, but I think he's more of a, he can play 3 downs, but I think you're rarely in 3 linebacker looks anymore. And Kiko, like Spikes, a guy who plays with an edge, a guy who plays with a little bit of mean. You need that. You really do. You need that. And you see with Duke Williams too. If you watch some of his Nevada stuff, he'll hit you. He'll light you up. And you want guys who are all in, who want to play with that, who aren't going to go out there and say, well, we're playing the Patriots this week. We're just going to hope we can stay with them. And no, I want guys to say, screw this. We're going to go out there. We have nothing to lose. We're the Bills, and let's just throw everything at them. That's what you need. We'll see. This is my favorite time of the year, actually, because it's just now it's the workouts. It's this is where you really build your team. Team building happens. You really develop a rapport with your teammates, your coaches, the time with the installation of whatever offense or defensive schemes you're running or tweaking, such as the Bills are, it seems like all the time. But you always tweak your offense. You never come in with the same exact packages as you did last year, just different variations or just different looks, different tweaks. Everybody does it, but it's just one of my favorite times of the year because then you have the roster constantly gets tweaked a little bit because the bulk of the guys are there. Let's be honest. There's not going to be many earth-shattering moves from this point till opening day. Never say never. Never say never. But in terms of movement, there's not going to be any. But you never know. This is the NFL. But the little tweaking, maybe you do pick up a guy here or there. Just there's constant moves, and we saw it all last offseason. Handful of guys released, handful of guys picked up, handful of guys signed, handful of guys cut. This guy picked up on waivers. Whatever. It happens, and you never know who you could pick up. You really don't. And it's my favorite time of year because you never know who you can find. You never know what unnamed guy is just going to come out and be a guy. It's like, whoa, I can't believe it. Wow. And that's where the scouting, that's where the coaches, that's where the advanced scouting comes in. That's where the stuff that we don't see, how their mental aptitude is in terms of picking up football and then taking it to the field and playing fast. It's something that we really don't get a chance to see because we don't really talk to these guys or know how well they learn or don't learn. And I'm going off on a tangent right now, but overall, I think it was quite an interesting off season that will continue. But to this point, it's definitely been one it's had its ups and its downs, but it's been fun. All this trading, all this wheeling, dealing, it's definitely been different. All like 8 trades. That's wow. That's a lot of trades. In a league, you don't see a lot of trading. Like not like baseball or hockey or basketball, where you see tons of trades. I think that's fun. I really do. I think that's one thing I think football lacks. I think they really should incorporate the trading element, and make it a tad easier than they do, because it's so money based and trade chart based and all this kind of other, or value chart based or whatever it is. But anyway, Bills fans, let me know what you think. If you like the draft, if you don't, what you feel like they should add. I know a lot of talk of tight end. I know a lot of talk of defensive end or lineman. Again, there's so much time to still add a guy. You never know. There's 31 other teams out there sitting there talking about how they're going to tweak their roster. Who can they move? Maybe a team's numbers are like this. Maybe that there's a guy that they like. And you saw it. It's just a bunch of guys sitting around talking football. Well, we like this guy. Do you guys feel like you want him? Do you feel like you're going anywhere with him? Just like with Bryce Brown, for example. Your backfield's loaded or it's crowded. He's a young guy. You have a young guy in front of him. He's not really your guy. We like him. What do you want for him? You never know what could happen. That's why I like this time of year. You can just pluck and add and little tweaks. I think they're going to add another back, though. I really do. I just get the sense they're going to add another back, a defensive end, somewhere, a bigger body defensive lineman, possibly a tight end, maybe another corner. That's where I really think they're going to go. But anyway, Bills fans, let me know what you think. Let me know, who you wanted, or if you got exactly what you wanted, or it's always fun interacting with you guys, talking football and having fun, keeping it fun. That's what I like football because it's fun. Whether you're a fan of the Bills or other teams, it's fun to talk about football. And I don't like when it gets nasty and ugly, like you see on Twitter, where it disintegrates or just into people insulting each other and talking about each other in a really vile, nasty way. I don't really care for that too much because I think there's too much of that out there, and people are so quick to take it to that level. They're so quick to just be ugly and nasty and be like, well, you're a fan of this team, go whatever to yourself, or start talking about somebody's family or stupid crap like that. But anyway, Bills fans, I've rambled and blabbed long enough. And let me know what you think. Comments, questions, whatever, feedback. I don't know much, but I know just a little bit. I'd like to think so anyway. So you guys have a good rest of the week. It's going in Thursday, so talk to you guys this weekend.